Arsenal 2, PSG nil, and that was a game of men against boys. Arsenal completely bullied PSG. And as much as I don't like Arsenal, sometimes you have to sit there and you just have to appreciate, the beauty in how well coached Arsenal are as a team. If someone had said to any Arsenal fan 2 years ago that they'd be destroying and dominating PSG with ease in a Champions League game, that is music to every Arsenal fan's ears. And here they are, 2 years later, absolutely blowing PSG away. PSG have all these physical players, João Neves, Vitinha, but physically they could not cope. I thought Thomas Partey had one of his best games in a long time for Arsenal, and I am jealous. I am jealous of how well coached Arsenal are, how good they are at possession, which I think every Man United fan is jealous of because we probably are the worst team in the world at possession, and Arsenal are probably the best team in the world at possession. But everything about Arsenal's performance was perfect, particularly Bukayo Saka, who surely has to be considered world class now. I think he's got a goal contribution in like every game this season. His output's insane. I do think if they played him a bit closer to goal, we'd get crazy goal scoring numbers as well. He got a free kick today. He was on it today. And I tell you what, Jurrien Timber, a player I wanted Man United to sign, he was fantastic. We're going to start by talking about Saka, then we're going to talk about Timber, then we're going to talk about Havertz. They're the three standouts, but I also want to talk about Trossard, Partey, Calafiore, Marino's debut, and Arsenal in general. But these are the statistics here. Obviously, Arsenal had a higher XG. PSG had a little bit more of the ball. But I thought Arsenal defended really well off the ball. I thought the first half they were very dominant. Second half it was more sit back. We've done the job. We're 2-0 up. And people go like Arsenal's boring and stuff. Arsenal's not boring. They're just well coached to win. I think people are nitpicking at Arsenal. I said this earlier, I'm a Man United fan and I'm seeing The Athletic, which is this really credible outlet, write reports that raging that Trossard shouldn't have been able to play versus Leicester because of his red card versus City, and outraged that Trossard was able to play versus Leicester. But the rule is he missed the League Cup game. That's the rule. And then outraged, accusing Thomas Partey of injuring Rodri. And I feel like the media is a little bit jealous of Arsenal. Look, I'm jealous of Arsenal, but, I have to appreciate what they do. And the media's always finding ways to go in on Arsenal and criticise them. But I think the job that Arteta has done, and I think Arsenal are just fantastic. And people will call them boring and defensive, but when you're 2-1 up to Manchester City away at the Etihad, where Manchester City haven't lost there in 2 years, of course you're going to park the bus with 10 men. People, criticise Arsenal for being defensive, but Fergie says, defence at the end of the day won you games, and Fergie's the best manager of all time. So I think Arsenal are very good at, doing the job, playing attacking football, and they've got the 2-goal lead and they know how to defend. And I think they're very over-criticised. And I think one player that's really over-criticised is Bukayo Saka. I got in a lot of stick because I said I'd take both Saka and Palmer over Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden's a good player, but I think he's overrated because I think he's just part of that beautiful Manchester City side, and I feel like people don't see Man City as rivals because they're a smaller club, so they're like just automatically think, I hate Arsenal, I'll pick Foden over Saka. I've always said I would have taken Saka and Palmer right now over Foden. I think Foden's a great player, but Saka's just one of those guys. He does it for England. Winning, he's done it in a crap Arsenal side. He's done it in a good Arsenal side. England had to change the whole system to try and get Phil Foden to be good. Saka can play in any system, any position, do whatever you want, and he can do a job. He's a special kind of player. And from minute one today, Saka was phenomenal. The way he was driving with the ball, running at people with energy. He was ready to take on his guy. He was putting a few shots in. He wanted his goal today. He was really up for it. He was taking his man on. He was playing with confidence. Now, Saka's obviously been confident for a while. He's just an unbelievable player. Goal contribution every game. But 8 dribbles, 4 tackles, 1 goal. This is PSG and he's winning most of his duels. He's absolutely cooking Nuno Mendes. PSG are in good form. His dribbles, he was brilliant. And, the cheek to take on that set piece, really clever. Just annoying how Arsenal get a goal from a set piece every game. It's not normal. He was fantastic. I mean, the set piece delivery was really, really well thought out. But you know what? He destroyed Mendes. He's physically better than him. He's skillful. I felt that Arsenal were just so much physically better than PSG, which did catch PSG out. But every time Saka got the ball, he was deadly. And the minute Saka gets space, he's so deadly. If Saka was played a little bit closer to goal and teams, didn't park the bus against Arsenal and gave Arsenal more space, Bukayo Saka would be this different breed of monster. But what's great about Saka is he's his creative outlet. He got an assist nearly every game this season. He's putting good balls in, this and that. He's been a really good creative outlet. But it's how from minute one of a game he will take people on. And Saka was absolutely ready and up for it tonight, taking people on, his ability to carry the ball, run into space, create, score. His output is fantastic. You look at this here. Since the start of last season, Bukayo Saka has scored or assisted 9 goals in the Champions League. That is 1 more than Rodrigo, who's played a lot more games than him because Real Madrid went to the final, and 2 more than Erling Haaland as well. It's absolutely crazy. Only Kane's got more, but Kane's stat pads in those 9-0 games that Bayern Munich win. Incredible stuff. You look at his form in the Champions League. That's not normal. This is a guy that people slander online. Rivals always look to slander this guy online. But he is good for Arsenal in the big games. He is. Sometimes you have to say, yeah, he plays for a rival, but he's a good player. Put some respect on his name because he's so over-criticised. Everything is, Saka, Saka, Saka. Palmer does something good, compare him to Saka. Foden does something good, compare him to Saka. They're all really good players. They're all really good players, but Saka seems to be the one that's always getting dragged down. Saka's the one that always gets this slander online for limping, and I'm like, can people just not appreciate how good a player Bukayo Saka is? He's direct. He can play quick 1-2s. He's intelligent. He's got output. He's got creative. His ability to swing those crosses in is fantastic. We've seen it the last few games. His output, his technique. I think people underrate him technically. 6 matches, 5 goals, 3 assists. We're looking at sort of world-class sort of numbers here. And if you look at the top 7 leagues, assists per 90, there is Bukayo Saka number 1, Cole Palmer number 2, Yamal number 3, Mohamed Salah number 4, Elise number 5. There's some good players in that top 5. Bukayo Saka has been on another level. Absolute another level this season as well. It is crazy. But there's one player at Arsenal that I wanted United to sign. When Ten Hag first came in, we didn't sign him because Louis van Gaal told him not to go or he wouldn't go to the World Cup. So we always assumed we were going to sign Jurrien Timbers the next season. Then he went to Arsenal. And I said this on July 14th, 2023, when Arsenal signed Timber. Jurrien Timbers is such a good signing for Arsenal. I can't lie, I'm very jealous. Versatile and one of the best ball-playing defenders I've seen. Only 22 as well, just like Saliba. Arsenal's future is looking bright. What scares me about Arsenal is the fact that, Saliba's 23, Timbers 23 now, Saka's 23. All of these players are starting to enter their prime, but they're not at their prime yet. So they're really good now and they're going to get better and better. And Arteta's got this young squad that's only going to improve. And then they're going to further add to it in the transfer market. And then Manchester City could also go down with potentially the 115 charges, although they'll probably find a way out of it, even though everyone knows they're a little bit, guilty. This is Arsenal's era. This is the best time for Arsenal to do something. And Jurrien Timber, I think for me, Havertz got man of the match. He was great. Saka was great, but he was man of the match today. 100% dribbles completed, 100% tackles won, 100% duels won. But it was when he made that last-ditch tackle, and then under the press with 3 players around him, he dribbles it out, goes through the middle, upper zone box. When I talk about Jurrien Timber, I talk about quality, elegance on the ball, being press resistant, being technically great. And Jurrien Timber showed that today for Arsenal. Defensively brilliant. This is Bradley Barcola's numbers. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Bradley Barcola had a stinker. If Marcus Rashford had put in that kind of performance for Manchester United, oh my God, the world would have gone crazy. This is a player that's got 11 goal contributions in his last 11 games. This is one of the most informed players in Europe. This is the guy since Mbappe's left. It's almost PSG's new Mbappe with how good he's been. And Jurrien Timber was like, who are you? Who are you? Wasn't even bothered. It was so easy for him. Didn't give him a sniff. Physically dominant, clever, intelligence, the last-ditch tackles, 1v1. Jurrien Timber is one of the most defensively sound fullbacks you're ever going to have. He plays centre-back for most of his Ajax time, but he's also just so good. He can play left-back, he can play right-back, he can play centre-back. Yes, he's not, dominant in the air, but he's so good on the ball. He uses his strength well. He can carry the ball, he can pass the ball, he can break the lines, he can contribute in other phases of play. He's been fantastic for Arsenal, and to think he came back from such a serious injury, that Jurrien Timber's only going to get better and better and better because he's come back from such a serious injury, and he's fantastic. And there was a reason I wanted him at United. Now, before I talk about Havertz, Trossard, Partey, and some general thoughts tactically, I'm going to put a link in the description to the Football Content Awards voting. So I've been nominated for 3 awards at this year's FCAs. I've been nominated for Best in Video, which you can see here. I've also been nominated for Best Influencer, which has Fabrizio Romano on it, so I think I've got no chance of winning that. and I've also been nominated for Best Premier League Creator, Best Club Creator Premier League. So if you guys could click the link in the description now or after the video and vote me for those 3 awards, it would mean so much. I'd love to win an award at the Football Content Awards. I've got nominated before, but I've never won it, so I think I'm going to push it and hope that I can win. But there's so many good creators in these categories. Continuing on to Kai Havertz. Now, my first thought about Kai Havertz is a year ago, people were sceptical about him. When Arsenal signed him, people are sceptical about him. This is a guy that's had, was okay at Chelsea, who was a unique profile, and Arteta took the risk. They spent a lot of money, and Arteta's turned this into a guy that scores every home game. Arteta's turned this guy into an unstoppable monster. Every game, goal contribution. I think only Haaland and Palmer have more goal contributions than him in the Premier League in 2024. This is obviously the Champions League. But he got a goal today. He's clinical. He's understanding of the game. It's crazy. Arsenal missed out on a striker, and I said the missing out on Sesko isn't the end of the world. Because if they, sort their left centre mid, and then they sort maybe their left back situation, improve on Zinchenko, and maybe get a winger, that actually might be 3 more important positions than a striker if Kai Havertz is going to keep these numbers up. And Kai Havertz is indeed keeping these numbers up, and he's always available. And, such a clever player. 1 shot, 2 shots, 1 goal, 1 key pass. What Kai Havertz does for me is more what he does off the ball. His movement, his understanding, his ability to pop up at the right moments, get on the end of things. Defenders don't see him coming. He's a proper box crasher and a really fantastic and talented player that can win his duels, that can hold up the ball, can really help Arsenal, retain a bit of control in that final third and hold it up well. But his movement will drag defenders out, create space for someone like Trossard to run in, Saka to run in, Martinelli to run in. I could see exactly why Arteta wanted Havertz, and it was a big question about it, but it's his movement, his IQ. There you go, Trossard, he's on the end of it. He's proper. When it comes to box instinct and movement, you don't get better than Kai Havertz. In terms of just final notes to add, I thought Thomas Partey was fantastic. I think Trossard is clutch. He is, for me, he started today and he was really good today, but I think as a super sub, you don't get better than Trossard. He's someone that, comes off the bench and puts in a real performance. Today he started, and just that ball was absolutely fantastic. I think Arsenal have adapted well to no Odegaard. There was a lot of questions of what Arsenal are going to do without Odegaard. I think Marino coming back in as well and probably being ready to start after the international break will definitely be big for Arsenal. But I think they've adapted well to no Odegaard. I think, the fact that they're so comfortable versus PSG shows how far they've come. Saliba and Gabriel and Declan Rice. Saliba, Gabriel and Declan Rice are just so good so often. They're so consistent. They're core to Arsenal's rest defence being the best in Europe, and Arsenal having the best defence in Europe. They're just going about having Declan Rice, Saliba and Gabriel level performances. I thought they were fantastic. I think Martinelli was full of energy and looking better. I think those goals and assists recently for Martinelli has given him confidence. I think part of Martinelli was unlocking the left-hand side, which Marino and Calafiori will do. I think he's looked better when Calafiori's come in, and another part of it was confidence. I think people have been saying that about Martinelli for a while, but you are seeing it. I think PSG focused too much on technicality rather than physicality, so Arsenal dominated them. I think Arteta set up perfectly, and I'll have to admit it. As much as I don't like Arsenal and I don't like watching them win, I thought Arsenal were absolutely incredible. So fair play to them, fair play to the job Arteta's doing. Please do hit that like button if you have not already. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. Bye.